Welcome to Shorty SuperCoach. How are you guys? Going to take a look at the teams in a moment. We're running a little bit behind schedule. Went to the movies last night and, didn't get back till sort of late. Caught the second half of the footy. It was nice to see Tristan Cherry belt out a handy little VC score, which was good. But, didn't get round to the, why is this thing doing this? Just get away. Didn't get round to the video last night. Got home too late and I was just like, by the time we upload this and do this, I just thought we'll make it a Friday evening sort of setup. I'll tell you what, I'm frustrated. Not only is the rank going poorly, we all know that, but this video is marking the road to 5K. We're mark this in your calendars, guys. We are going to work ourselves back from 45,000th to the top 5K. We're going to stay driven. And I hope I can back these words up, to be fair. But not only are we having a poor year, but I'll tell you what, the amount of premiums and just 1 week too late scores that are just doing my head in. Like, I was all set to get Nick Dacos in the week after. All I said, Nick, he had a break even of 120. Just score 130, mate, even 140. Wax out of 170. Ouch, fair enough. Okay. Gone. I was like, yep, probably going to get him in a week or two. Yeah, make yourself, within range. I had him in my team. Then Matt Flynn comes out and scores 145 and makes himself a must inclusion on my flex. Because I had Gawn on my flex, I had to reverse the trade and then bring in Flynn. And of course, Gawn couldn't have just chilled, could he? He has to belt out a 170. Just hurts. And then Bailey Humphrey last week, the reverse. We trade him out. So scores when he's been in my team, or when he wasn't in my team, he scores 110, 111, whatever it was. Let's have a look at old mate. So he whacks a 104, 111. Oh, yep, trade him in. 64, 74, 48. Goes down in price. Clearly has to go. He had 7 touches against the Tigers. 150. Get stuffed, Bailey. Holy shit, mate. And then, last night, you might have heard me on the live. Zach Merritt, he's coming in my team next week. High break even. Have to get in Warner or Petrarca this week, I feel. Look, Zach, just 130, 140 max. 167, his highest score in nearly 2 years. I just can't believe it. And people will say, surely they're premiums. Come on, it's round 8. Like, you got to expect that. And I know, clearly they're guns. They're going to give you the odd score, I know. But I just can't believe the bizarre ability for it to be within a week of every time I glance an eye towards a guy and you really hone in on that break even and you bring it into your planning and you're like, okay, nothing crazy. Because these players, even though they're premiums, they'll only score over 150 2 to 4 times in a year. 2 to 3 is probably the average, really, unless you're an absolute jet. Like, Merritt's more your consistent guy. 167. In that last quarter, I'm just like, oh, God, could you just chill out, mate? For God's sake. Anyway, it's just grinding my gears. The joys of SuperCoach, hey? We'll get into the team soon, but while I'm on a bit of a rant, I just wanted to discuss Geelong membership with you, and I wonder if anyone else has experienced these frustrations either with the Cats membership or just your membership in general. For what it's worth, I don't reckon club members get enough for their membership and what we pay. That's a separate story. But so Geelong, as a paid-up member, I get a reserved seat for 11 games a year, 11 home games. Now, a few years back, maybe 5 years back, it used to be 8 at Geelong, 3 at the MCG. Way back, it used to be, 2 at Marvel, 1 at the G. You'd only ever get 8 or 9 home games at Geelong. But as we've upgraded, we get a bit more. The stadium is better. Fantastic. So it went to 9 and 2 over the last couple of years, just 2 MCG games. And I get my nice seat on the wing at the Cats. I get a nice seat on the half-forward flank of the MCG. It's gone down to 10 and 1. Geelong's got 10 home games at GMHBA this year. Fantastic. 1 home game at the MCG. And we got this email saying that your MCG seat will no longer be reserved. It'll just be a general admission bay that you will get. Now, mind you, our membership actually went up about 20 or 30 bucks, whatever. Sort of felt like we were getting less. But in my thought process, I thought we were just getting a general admission bay in that level 1 seating area. So I was like, okay, let's get there early. You still get a decent seat. Turns out, so this was the game against Hawthorn. So a huge game. And I had to sit on level 4 and bust my ass for a spot with a bunch of other people that, would have probably been in a similar boat, but also people who just bought general admission. I could not believe it. So Shorty cracked it a bit, and I actually went to the Geelong membership site. They're on site at the grounds, and I was like, I've got to get my head around this because I feel like we're getting gypped here. I don't want to be too righteous, but this is what you should get. I'm a paid up member. You're driving to the game. Traffic's crazy. It's Easter Monday. I don't want to be worrying about scuffling along to a seat. I want to have my reserved seat because I pay the best part of $600. Anyway, I went in and, well knowing that it's not the lady's fault that I'm having a go at, but I was pretty measured, but I wasn't happy. And I said, look, what's going on here? Because to me, it feels like we've just paid extra for our membership and gone from 11 seated games to 10. And she said, well, it's not as simple as that. Within all the money and the finer details of it, 10 membership games at Geelong is actually more value for money than the 11, including the MCG. She worded it in a way that basically a GMHBA seat is worth more than an MCG seat. It must be, all in the background and the details to it. There's probably more numbers and maths behind it than I would know. But that was her reasoning, that although it doesn't feel that way, you're actually getting more value for money with a 10th home game at Geelong. Hence, we've just made it a general admission, and you did have the opportunity to upgrade to a reserve seat if you'd wanted. And I said, well, yeah, for $40, right? She's like, yeah. And I said, well, we've already paid extra on our membership. It's gone up. And then what, I'm supposed to then pay another $40, which I'll do next year. But come on, man. Times are tough. Goodness me. Look, and I was frustrated. I said, well, look, for what it's worth, I get what you're saying, and within the numbers, I guess it makes sense in the background. But your average Joe Blow will absolutely feel like they've gone from 11 reserve-seated games to 10. That's our experience, and it's absolutely how most Joe Blows will feel. And, yeah, I don't think it went down well. Shorty didn't yell at her, but I was pretty firm in my thought process. And I went along to my general admission seat and barracked for the Cats, and they had a great win. But I don't know. Shorty's going to jump down off his high horse. But I tell you what, times are tough. I mean, can we just get a bit more for our money these days? This is why you scan stuff illegally through the self-serve. This is why I put through stuff cheaper than they actually are, mate. I mean, come on. The cheeky little... I'm not shoplifting, but I tell you what, if I want to buy something from that self-serve thing, okay, maybe the different label occasionally gets put on it. Maybe these things happen. Sorry, Woolies and Coles, but it happens. But... anyway, shorty rant over. We're a bit fired up, but let's talk some actual SuperCoach. So as always, I've got your thoughts and comments from the live, and that'll sort of dictate me into where I sort of go in my questions. I'll show you my team and the trades that I'll make. So the first one to discuss is probably Warner, Petrarca, and Rankin. A lot of people were really talking about that, and So I've mapped out my next few trades across 2 to 3 weeks. And the difference in, it's going to be pretty tight to what I want to do. And the extra 40K from Warner is actually going to be pretty handy. And I feel like they're almost splitting hairs in who's the better selection. Yes, Petrarca's got all those runs on the board for 110 averages of years gone by, and Warner's never done that. But I think Warner's had a more up and down season, but he has more ability to go big than Petrarca. Petrarca's only scored 1 ton. Yes, a lot of consistent 90s, but only 1 ton when they beat up on a Richmond side. So I'm not saying he's not going well. I like Petrarca as an option, but I feel like Warner has started to get a bit more centre bounce time, as has Petrarca. So that's what we're really looking for in these selections. Petrarca probably had a little less centre bounce time, which allowed him to become a forward. Now the last 3 weeks, he's really lifted it. So I do think he's a good selection. Don't get me wrong, but they've kind of taken James Jordan out of the centre bounce. Still tags, but out of the centre bounce. And that has resulted in Chad Warner getting those numbers up towards 70 and 78% the last couple of weeks. And that does often translate to good scoring for him. So I am going to go I think the time's done for Lawler and Sanders. And I think Huswaite is a good inclusion. I mean, it'll be interesting to see if he can hold his spot when Nash is back, but I do think he's a good call. And I am going to go Chad Warner. So that's the way we're going to approach it. I'll have a look at the teams in the moment, but I don't think there's been any surprises. But yeah, I think that's the way we'll go about it. And look, I think, honestly, of those three, I'd pick Rankin ahead of both the other guys. Certainly don't want to, not give him his love, but he's around the same price as Trac. I think he's a great option. But yeah, Boxall hopefully gives us something. Filippo coming back could be a handy sideways trade at some point. Oscar McDonald, I said on the live, I didn't like it. Didn't expect him to be dropped, but certainly validates that a bit. Moraes goes. Treloar's back. Crouch. How about Sid Draper? I thought Crouch going out would really allow for Draper to maybe get some more points. I thought he could be a handy downgrade, but to see him dropped, unbelievable scenes. Tom Stewart, again, we talked about this sort of losing faith in that body and being concerned about that, and I think the Cats are certainly around that as well. Clayton Oliver, out for personal reasons, going to throw a spanner in the works. Connor Stone might frustrate some. And then, of course, we have Amon going out, which may affect some teams. Tunstall out. But yeah, look, all in all, things are nothing too crazy from this team. So, and yeah, we'll take that little VC loophole from Tristan. Thank you. So, yeah, I think you're winning on both fronts with Warner and Petrarca. Slight edge to Warner, but I really do like them both. Bedford tag this week is interesting on Warner. Probably didn't think about that too much. Filippo comes in, like we said. But with guys like Filippo, and the same can be said for Mills and Coleman, give them 2 weeks. There's no reason to just charge into selecting them off no form at all. They're not Bontempelli and Butters. They're not going to hit the ground running like they did. So give them a couple of weeks. They might be a handy sideways trade for us, but we'll cross that bridge in a couple of weeks. Now, Bont and Butters, a lot of people bringing them in. Absolutely not going to talk you out of that. I can't talk you out of it. They're on fire. What's my approach? I think at the moment, right now, we have an absolute lack of cash gen, an absolute lack of rookies coming in. Ones we can trust, they're nowhere. Our benches are starting to get bare. All these ones we started with at the start of the year are making cash and we're trading them out, and the options just aren't there, or they're getting dropped like Moraes or other guys like that. So the way I'm looking at it is, I think Butters and Bontempelli, 680 and 690. Gosh, it's a lot of cash. I'm all for getting one of them at around that price, but I just believe that we will get them at a cheaper price, even if it is just 50 or 60k. They have to fall from that price. And if you feel confident enough to just get a stack of cash and launch at them, I'm not going to blame you. Over the long run, you probably go better than me because you're going to be taking their points week on week while I work my ass off over 3 weeks to save 60 or 70k. So, look, it really depends which way you want to look at it. Take their points, go for it. I'm not going to talk you out of it, but just bear in mind that it's a lot of money for 2 players, and they're bloody worth it. They are. They absolutely are. But could you go a Zach Merritt, or could you go a Josh Dunkley who's on the decline? Could you go a Jack Sinclair who's also on the decline? Noah Anderson at a nice price. Tom Green at a nice price. Like guys that are under 600k. Caleb Sarong under 600k. Like, could you go these guys? And yes, they're not probably going to average 125 like Butters and Bont will, but you can save 100k. So we'll need Butters and Bontempelli, and by all means spend 700k on one of them. But I just think you're probably going to need to wait on one of them to just drop a bit, because all it will take is an 80 or a 90, which seems a long way away for those guys. But I just want to put a word of warning out there that just bear in mind that you could be left strapped for cash if you launch heavily on both of them. But the way they're going, I totally understand why you are. So it's a bit of a balancing act, but try and plan it out. Like I said, Sinclair and Dunkley, guys that I think we should make upgrade targets. They're dropping in price into a range that's really nice. Get a hold of them soon. Bring them into your plans. Lockie Neal, you can back with confidence. A lot of people are trading him in, and I definitely endorse that. Hustwaite over McDonald was certainly my thoughts on the live, and it's even more so when McDonald gets dropped. Now, Matt Kennedy, a lot of people are talking about bringing Matt Kennedy in. I'm not trusting him. So, look, I think at his price, you've got to bring him in as a bloke that's a keeper, and I just don't see him as a keeper. Also, don't see his name, but his name is Matthew. So there you go. At 470k, you got to bring him in with the intention of keeping him all year. And honestly, I just prefer, these guys, the 6 I've got here, or a Petrarca or a Nick Martin. I just prefer those guys. So Matt Kennedy, probably a top 10 forward at the end of the year, but I feel like it's probably, at the 9 or 10 range at best. So running hot, feel like he has to be impacted by Treloar. Happy to pass on him. Dale, I'm holding mainly because I'm choosing to upgrade around these out of form premiums. Because my team is going so poor, I'm trying to just upgrade my rookies before out of form premiums in the hope that the premiums turn it around in the meantime. But if they don't, and I think Dale's probably got a week really to prove me. He's got a ton up this week, but I can totally see why you would sideways trade. Bowie looking good. Draper we were going to talk about until he was dropped. And I was going to talk about Sardis, but obviously we ran out of time for that. But general thoughts on sideways trades. I don't like them. I hear a lot of people even talking about going De Koning to Cherry or Max Holmes to Butters and that type of thing. It's too sideways for mine. I think you get the short-term sugar hit because you'll get a Butters or you get a Cherry. But in essence, don't trade premiums for premiums unless something really clear changes with their body or their role, or you just lost complete faith in their form, maybe like a Bailey Dale. But even still, history shows that premiums will have sometimes 2 to 3 weeks that are quiet, and they will still end up averaging 100 or high 90s. So be patient with these guys, but I'm not a fan of the sideways trade as a general rule. But we'll see what we can do over the coming weeks because, definitely need to upgrade a few of these guys. Reed's going well. O'Sullivan to be upgraded soon. But, hopefully Hewitt can go well again. The road to top 5K. Pray for me, guys. We're coming back. But, have a good weekend, guys. I'll talk to you Sunday night.